Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Chicken Box, our weekly live show sponsored by the Afro-American newspapers, the Black Media Authority, for nearly 129 years. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited that you are here. We have an exciting topic to discuss. I'm Toni Draper, CEO and publisher of the Afro-American newspapers. And I have with me today our guest host, the Reverend Dorothy Boulware, who serves as our managing editor. Our other hosts, our co-hosts, Misha Green and Kevin Peck, are both on travel, even though Kevin may and Mr. Impeccable may pop in here before the hour is over. Listen, I don't know where you are in the country. This may be breakfast time for you. This may be lunchtime for you. You may be overseas. It may be dinner time. But welcome to the Chicken Box. As I said, when we get on the box, we speak our truth. If you're from the Baltimore area, you know that Chicken Box is 4 wings and a fry. And so we speak our truth here. Do us a service, would you, before we get into this wonderfully exciting conversation today? Would you like and share, invite others to join us on today's broadcast? And so we're going to jump right on in. Hey, Byron Deese, we're glad to see you. I think Byron has a fan badge on his. He joins us every week. And so today we are, Reverend Boulware, just say hello to the people. And usually this is an intergenerational show. And so you just get one generation today. Both Reverend Boulware and I are representing the boomers. I think one of our guests is representing the boomers as well. But millennials and Gen Xers and Gen Zers with your mama jeans, you are welcome. Reverend Boulware, just want to say hello.
Everybody. I hope you have a chicken box in front of you, especially if you're in Baltimore because it's lunchtime. But we have some great information to share with you while you're enjoying your chicken box on our chicken box. So it's great to have you, and please invite your friends to join in for this discussion.
Okay. And so it is a discussion. The reason we do it on this platform is because we want to hear from you. We don't want you just to hear from us. And so we want you to weigh in. We're talking today about a subject that everybody, I believe, can weigh in on. And so it's Black people versus food deserts. That's our overarching subject for today. But the Afro just issued, Reverend Boulware, you have not seen this beautiful edition. And I am a person that gets most 99% of my news from this device. But this is what we want to talk about today. I don't know if you all can see it. We have 28 pages all about the food of our culture, the food of our culture. And so we talk about, excuse me, this camera doesn't want to stay. That's what happens when you go live, Reverend Boulware. Camera doesn't work. You can't get on live stream. But we have 28 in an entire edition devoted to food, all about the food of our culture. And so if you're a subscriber, you're going to get that in the mail. If you're interested in getting a copy of it, I will let you know how to email us, and we'll correspond with you and see if we can't make that happen. But the thing that we want to talk about today, which is a whole page, and it's also a focus for us for the next 6 months, we want to talk about food deserts. Now we're going to talk today about food deserts in Baltimore City, but I recognize that many of us are not from Baltimore City. But I would contend that if you are in an urban area in the United States of America, there is a food desert someplace in your city. Somebody let us know in the chat we're going to get the definition of them, and we're going to talk about them. And we have 2 special guests today, and we're going to put our devices on mute right now if we can. We have 2 special guests today. Marvin Doc Cheatham, we're going to bring you on the screen. Peter Semler, hi, good to see you. Peter's going to talk about his article that is taking up a full page. Did you know it was a full page, Peter? In the print edition today. And we're going to talk about food deserts. Reverend Boulware, would you introduce someone who was so well known in the Baltimore area, but some of our viewers may not know who Marvin Doc Cheatham is?
I'd be happy to introduce Doc Cheatham. I hope everyone can hear me. I was trying to mute my mic. So, Doc Cheatham, we think of Baltimore community, we think of Doc Cheatham. When I first met him just a few years ago when I started at the Afro, Doc Cheatham was making sure that everybody voted and that everybody's vote counted, that the systems were working the way they were supposed to work, and he was our go-to guy. Everything that had to do with elections, it was Doc Cheatham. Doc Cheatham has been a stalwart in the Baltimore community, always fighting to make things right and never refusing to be silenced in spite of whatever's going on. So now he is the head of the Matthew Henson Community Development Association in West Baltimore. And his current fight, although I'm sure there are more than one, is about the food deserts that the people in his neighborhood experience. Doc Cheatham says it right, he says it loud, and he says it long until he is heard. And so I'm sure his neighbors are feel lucky to have him as their sort of representative. He is well educated. He speaks languages. In the boardroom, he speaks languages at City Hall, and he can speak to the guys on the corner. So welcome, Doc Cheatham, to this conversation this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Doc.
Doc, we're glad to have you. And so what we're going to do, Doc, I want you to, because people, we hear this term, food desert, and we're going to ask you, can you give us a definition? There's a little controversy going on up in Park Heights where you are around the definition of food deserts. And then PK Semler, I'm coming to you. So look, the chicken box is where you speak your truth, right? No holds barred, just speak your truth. And people who are watching don't have to agree with our truth, it's your truth. And so tell us, what is a chicken box?
Well, let me say, so it's an honor and thankful to be here.
Oh, and yourself. Wait a minute, Doc. Wait a minute. One. Okay.
Am I okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
If reason I can hear myself, I can hear you.
Well, it's kind of going in and out. It's going in and out a little bit, Doc. Well, this is one that you all know we are live, so that's what happens when you're live. Go ahead, Doc. Try it again.
I would first say the word desert is not an appropriate word.
So Doc, hold on for a minute. Doc, wait a minute, hold on for a minute. You got so much good information to share. We want to be able to hear you. Do this for us, Doc. Go out and come back in, okay? And I'm a toss the ball to PK Semler, and I will get back. See if we can get a better connection. Welcome, PK. Good to see you. PK is, Marvin Boulware, tell us a little bit about who PK is and his role with the Afro and how long he'll be working on this particular project, Securing the Bag.
PK is a newsman by heritage. He's a writer. He's a journalist. I think he's a politician by pen. And he has been contracted to be our investigative journalist to write our stories for the grant we received from Solutions Journalism. And through them, our job is to not just talk about food deserts and where they are and how horrible they are. Peter's job is to highlight the solutions that have been offered and tried, and especially those that have been successful. So he's starting us off with an introductory article about one of the solutions and about the situation. And he will be with us through November as we continue to explore this area together. So Peter.
So Pete, you prefer to be called Peter or PK?
My late father was called Peter, so we had the same name, and my sisters were called Helen. My mom was called Helen, so PK was a way that people know that I wasn't an 89-year-old or 80 plus retired U.S. diplomat, but PK is fine. That's very good. Yeah.
So usually when we use PK, we're thinking about a preacher's kid.
I know, a preacher's kid. Yes, I know that.
Okay. So PK, while we're waiting for Doc Cheatham to come back on, what is a food desert?
A food desert is any area which is 1/4 mile away from a food supermarket, where 40% of residents don't have a car or access to transportation to get there, and where people are statistically below a certain level there's a statistical statistical on wealth and income, so it's on a means basis. So that's what a food desert is. And the Johns Hopkins study basically highlighted the extreme difference of Baltimore compared to almost any other place in the U.S. So it's quite an eye-opening report or study, and it's something that makes no sense. And that's why this article is so fascinating, because you're giving, as you know, I'm honored to be writing for Afro-American, a newspaper done in 1892. And my mentor and idol is Frederick Douglass, who had his own newspaper and whose motto was truth to power. So I think it's information, the lack of information is the biggest problem in this discussion.
Okay, that's good. And the North Star. So I know we all have to mute out when we're talking. So let me say to those of you who are watching us online, you're on our Facebook page. When you hear the word food deserts, you heard what PK said the definition was. Would you just put in the chat yes or no if there is a food desert in your city? I know people are tuning in from all over the place, and I'm just interested to know if there's a food desert in your city. So PK told us it was any place where the closest market was 1/4 mile away, right? Yeah. And people did not have transportation to get to that place, right? And where healthy food are served. And so let us know, is there a food desert where you live? Or maybe not where you live, but in the close proximity to where you live. And so PK, there's been a lot of discussion and debate over this 1/4 mile. I'm sorry Doc's not back on, because he and the council person for the district where Doc resides and where he works, where he advocates for the rights of folk, there is a debate around the 1/4 mile. Have you heard anything about that debate? Okay, you on mute. Oh, Doc appeared. PK's on mute. I love it. Don't you all love? I love live broadcasts. Doc, I had a question for you. You weren't back yet, and so PK was trying to answer it, but he's on mute. So I'm going to ask you, Doc, since it's been. Doc, tell us what is going on in Park Heights. What is this 1/4 mile that you all are quarreling about?
Well, it's a squabble as a result of a councilman coming in and not knowing what Johns Hopkins has documented, what the City of Baltimore Health Department documented.
Doc, we're so sorry. Your sound is still not good for us. So I heard you say there was a. Do you have more than one device on? Is your phone also on the broadcast?
No, my phone is off.
Your phone is off. Do you have television on or any other device? Let
me try.
What's on behind? Yeah, what's on behind you? Yeah, let's see if we can turn everything off just for a moment.
Okay, TV was on mute, but now it's on off.
Okay, let's try it again. So tell us, what's the squabble? What's the debate?
The squabble is not a squabble. The city councilman, who is new, needs to do his homework. The City of Baltimore Health Department has identified 1/4 mile or more as being in a food desert. Johns Hopkins University has designated and put in print a food desert is 1/4 mile or more, 1/4 mile. This new councilman is contending he worked for the government and it's 1 mile. Well, he needs to know what Johns Hopkins and the City of Baltimore Baltimore Health Department has designated. I don't have the time or energy to argue with young people who don't know and haven't done their homework as to what a food desert is. What we need to know is that 124,000 people, Black people who live in Baltimore, live in what we call food apartheid. Food desert is saying this evidently was nature made. A desert is nature made. A food desert in Baltimore City is man made. That men and women that are elected officials and appointed officials have not taken the time and energy to reduce what we are having. We are having people in Sandtown. That's the area that I live in. And I hope my councilman finds out what area I really live in. I don't live in Park Heights. People in Sandtown died 20 years earlier than people will say in Reservoir Hill or Roland Park. We died 20 years earlier. The life expectancy in Sandtown is age 70. I am 70. The age expectancy in Roland Park is 85 to 90 years of age. Our problem is that we have stores that our councilman needs to come and visit. We have 8 in my neighborhood. We don't have food markets. We have not had a food market in my neighborhood since 2013, 2 years before the Freddie Gray riots. Many other communities have had the nicety that even though Stop Shop and Save, which went out of business in 2013, many of those stores reopened. Our store on Monroe and Pressman never reopened. So we have 8 liquor stores, but we do not have a food store. And our councilman can come with us on not Monday, but Tuesday, and we will walk with him so he can see how far it is to walk to Mondawmin. But that's not the problem, how far it is to walk from Mondawmin with 8 bags of goods in your 2 arms trying to get back. It's a quarter of a mile.
You are on the box for real. Listen, for our viewers, we invited Councilman James Torrance to join us today. We were told that he had something scheduled when we invited him 2 weeks ago, and we respect that. He did send us this statement, and so I'm going to ask you, Reverend Boulware, and then I'm going to ask you, PK, and I'll come back to you, Doc. I'm going to share his statement. If you all would just indulge me, and then get on the box. That's what we want to do. We're going to ask our viewers, get on the box. What do you think about these food deserts? And so I
would like to read a statement since he's going to have one read. I'd like to read one myself. Coming from my group.
Listen, you got it. I'm gonna read his statement, and then I'm gonna ask PK. Do me a favor, Doc. Put your phone on mute. Put your device on mute for me. Thanks. I'm gonna read his statement, which really it's more of a PR statement. I'm gonna read his statement, and then PK, I'm gonna ask for you can get on the box for a little bit. Reverend Boulware first, you get on the box, then PK, you get on the box, and Doc, you can read your statement, okay? So here's what he says. His Councilman Torrance's statement regarding food deserts. It just says this: communities and families residing in food deserts are increasingly susceptible to health and development problems. We must increase our efforts throughout the city to bridge access to healthy and affordable food sources. This means improving transit to supermarkets and attracting supermarkets to areas without convenient access to healthy foods. We can all agree with that, I think. And so then he goes on to talk about solving food insecurity in Baltimore City requires collective action for a sustainable future. Our community leaders, that's you, Doc, grocers, and us as well, health professionals and city agencies have this common goal, which requires reimagining. Don't you all I love that word, reimagining. It's been so popular in the last 14 months. But reimagining our city's infrastructure, encouraging responsible development, empowering community gardens, and prioritizing nutritional education. And then our councilman, or your councilman, I have a different councilman, I'm on the other side of the city from you, Doc. He says, I will continue advocating for increased funding of community-driven projects that address the root causes of food insecurity throughout neighborhoods in the 7th District, such as Penn North, Druid Heights, Coppin Heights, and Doc, where you live, Sandtown, Winchester. And so it sounds like he's on your side, Doc. Remedying the abundance of food deserts in our communities is a complex issue, but it remains one of my top priorities. I look forward to continue collaboration with community leaders, city agencies, and health professionals as we work to improve the quality of life for all our residents, regardless of zip code. End of statement. All right, Reverend Boulware, you're on the box.
Well, let me say this. The children in the Matthew Henson neighborhood probably can't wait for the gardens to grow, and can't wait for the reimagining to happen. Somebody needs to get a store in there in that neighborhood, and it needs not to be the result of what's your word, Doc? You like charrettes? It needs not to be the result of all that. Somebody needs to do something for the kids because they need healthy food. That's my chicken box for the moment.
All right, thank you. PK, you're on the box.
No, I mean, one of the things I interviewed the Doc Cheatham, and one of the things that really struck me, and it was amazing in today's world of social media and lack of communication, is 300 residents signed a petition to get a food store in his neighborhood. One of the things is America is by far the food glut of the world. We have too many places to eat, too many supermarkets usually out there. And then when you have this rare example where you have residents begging for a food store, this is what business wants, a huge demand for what you're going to serve. You know, I live in DC. We're sort of 15 years, you know, we're sort of seeing the future. When you have a good food place or a good restaurant, you have crowds of people begging to go and eat. And I've seen it in Baltimore from McDaley Park when a Save-A-Lot is, you know, bringing community together and everything positive of the community. Not those little corner stores like the Johns Hopkins study was shocked because they found corner stores would only have 2 vegetables, onions and potatoes, and that's it. And, you know, and people, all of us, love to eat. It brings the family together. It's something that brings everybody, black, white, Italians, Jewish, we all love to come around to eat. And the Mondo in the Shoppers Market is a very highly successful business. I was talking to them. They're going to change ownership because the owner, Shoppers, wants to go into food distribution, but that supermarket is bigger and better than even Safeway. I was shocked. It was a pleasant surprise. I was expecting something worse, and it was like well stocked. And what he said is people want to eat. There's a huge demand. And one of my first interviews and the best interviews, Governor Hogan says he knows the problem. He wants to work with him. And, you know, in his previous life, he was a billionaire real estate developer. So it's in his business. So that's what I was getting back, the lack of communications. They're the people who want to get the things done. Giant, Safeway, you know, Giant's owned by the Dutch giant Aegon that owns Transamerica with a big tower and a big asset manager. You know, these people want, you know, to create their businesses, and these businesses in our community, our urban America, the urban economy is a growth driver of the biggest economy in the world. So it makes no sense to have food deserts. It's bad for economics. The healthcare, diabetes, and all these things are just negative when everything else is a positive. So I think Doc Cheatham's just getting 300 signatures in a petition for something like a supermarket, that's astounding. And, you know, anybody, yeah.
It absolutely is. And Priscilla says, make it affordable and they will come. If you're just joining us, this is the Afro-American Newspaper's weekly show, The Chicken Box. Yes, you heard it right, with 2 X's. We try not to make it triple X, but 2 X, a place where you can speak your truth. And so we thank you. I want to give a shout out to we saw that Priscilla was joining us and Byron was joining us, and we have people who are weighing in and people are saying yes in West. There's 1, 2 people at least that said yes in West. 3 people said yes in West Baltimore. So West Baltimore seems to be the desert place of Doc Cheatham. And I'm a West Baltimore girl. I know you're West Baltimore. Well, you're all over the city, but you're in West Baltimore now. And so, Doc, it's your turn. Get on the box. Tell us what you want to say. You said you had a statement you wanted to share.
I'd like to share a statement, and hopefully it's only 2 minutes long.
Oh, Dr. Sound is going kind of in and out. Let me ask, in and out. Let me ask you this, Doc. Are you using any kind of headphone or anything like that?
No,
You're not? Okay, you're on a laptop, you're on a phone?
I'm on the laptop.
You're on a laptop, okay. So yeah, your sound was great before the show. So are you using the external mic? Okay,
Nope.
external mic, or you using the computer mic?
I'm using the computer mic.
Computer mic, okay. Well,
Are you hearing me any better? Maybe if I come closer.
let's see. Let's test it. Test, because we want to hear what you have to say. So give us a testing 1, 2, 3.
I want to hear what I had to say as well.
All right, let's try it again. I think you might have it. Go ahead and say it.
Okay. It says, we want to thank you for sharing with your listeners one factually based reason African Americans in certain areas.
No, we're not.
Can't
Sit back.
hear.
No, sit back a little bit, Doc. It's muffled. We're going to. All right, try it again if you can.
Is this any better?
I think so. If you sit back.
Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me any better?
We can hear you now. Okay. Go ahead and read your statement.
All right. African Americans in certain areas, such as town in Baltimore City, life expectancy is 20 years less. Did you hear me? 20 years less than those that live in rich neighborhoods in Baltimore City. The term food desert does not cut it. And we're darn sure that there is nothing healthy about a food inequality that our elected officials, both appointed and elected, are lying to us about. A food desert is defined as by the USDA as a, quote, low-income census tract where either a substantial number or residents of that area have low supermarkets or no supermarkets at all. This term food desert is inadequate. The term implies that a lack of affordable and fresh food is just a geographic problem.
You're going in and out. So
I can't hear you in and out either.
Right. So if
I've given you a website.
Okay, yeah.
The website is www.mhcdc.net. If you go to their website, you click on food apartheid. You will hear not only what I was going to read to you, but you're going to hear our recommendations to the city, who has not come up with a program. We have a written program on my website, www.mhcdc.net. Go to the left-hand side, click the button, go down to food apartheid. You'll see my written statement from today's interview.
Right. We can hear you. Now, we heard that well, Doc. That came across really well. So that was great.
Well, our elected officials, for the most part, are relatively new. Similar to my councilman, have no experience in the food desert issue in Baltimore City. I've lived here 7 years. I'm talking about. We used to have 2 food markets at Mondawmin. We now have 1. We used to have a food market at Pressman and Monroe. We have none. And what we're saying is that none of our officials live in a food desert.
Right.
We do every day.
I think we get the point, Doc.
We live in a food desert.
We get the point. You used to have food markets in certain places, and now you don't. Right. And so we're going to go to your website. Right. We're going to go to your website. And you were saying. Right.
I'm sorry.
And so that's okay. It's not, technology things happen, guys. This is live. That does happen. PK described it too from the Johns Hopkins study. So he affirms, we agree with you on your definition of a food desert, right? We agree. You get no controversy from us here. Let's talk a little bit about the solutions. I think we all agree. We got food deserts in Baltimore. Somebody weighed in is on the live from LA. They got food deserts there. People in DC, there are food deserts there. And so we need to talk about Yes, Priscilla, I agree. Community education, the health benefits of eating, all of this. The problem is people can't get to it. There's no food supermarket within a reasonable walking distance of where they live. They don't have transportation. And so that's the problem, is that you have these food deserts. It's a food apartheid, food insecurity, because people do not have a way to get there. And so for those of us who drive, just think about that. If I had to walk to the supermarket, even if it was a half a mile, beautiful day like today, even if it was a mile, and then I wanted to buy healthy foods for my family, and then had to try to carry back 6 or 8 bags. I'm on the box now, y'all. I don't think I would make it. And so people will make short trips, to bring back a bag or two, but they have to go outside of their area or pay to take an Uber or Lyft or some other transportation to get there. That is not workable. Those of us who are privileged to be able to drive to our local supermarket don't feel that same crunch, that same pressure. We can get into the car, drive to our local Giant Safeway or whatever, pick up that loaf of bread when we need it. We don't have to walk and carry it back. That's the problem. Yes, we teach people about doing that. Let's talk about the solutions. That's what PK is talking. PK, what have you found? Let's talk a little bit about my friend Rick Bernstein at First Fruits Farms.
Rick Bernstein has this incredible farm that, provides 2 million pounds of the first fruits, the best vegetables, meats, to food banks that are connected with churches, and it's all ecumenical from the Black Church to the Catholic diocese, and he's giving those first fruits. And even more interesting is also he's bringing everybody together, and it's the 2 million pounds. He's given 20 million pounds of food since he started about 20 years ago. Has 10,000 volunteers, but even the great part is these volunteers are like people from your church to the Catholic diocese, Mormons, Islam, and they all work together. And he's doing education. There's even an Italian woman called Monica LaPenta who's been teaching Italian cooking in our in Baltimore elementary schools. So he's getting the education of knowing to cook well from the children, because everything starts from the children. They're learning to cook Italian, cooking well, and and you got other solutions. Like I didn't know hackers. I'm a DC. I'm not that, Baltimore is sort of our sister city, but the hackers have been doing this since the economic boycotts of civil rights. And you go to your supermarket, you don't have a car, you just take a hacker and you bring you to the grocery store. So they even invented Uber and Amazon Eats before. And one of the funny parts of the Johns Hopkins is 40% of the people don't have cars. Well, in the boomer white millennial community, not using your car as a positive aspect. They're using the fact that you don't use cars to build more condos in DC and, bring more housing instability. But in the fact that, nobody should have to have a car to eat, and one of the stories we'll be doing is the Arabers who are delivering fresh vegetables from the Mennonites in Lancaster County using horse and drawn carriages. So as I said, old school's new school. What made all these people billionaires and trillionaires was already invented by the Black community. It's, take back our own, wealth and creation. It's an innovation. It doesn't come from the skies. It comes from people doing things. And the bigger the problem you have, the greater the innovation.
That's great. And over here in Baltimore, we call them the Arabers, PK.
I told him that.
Arabers. Sorry.
All the
But Rick Bernstein, Fresh Fruits Farm. So somebody might say, well, how do you get the food from the farm? Listen, here's what the churches do. Our church partners with Rick Bernstein. Your members go to Freeland, Maryland, and you can plant, you can harvest, but as importantly, you can take as much as you can carry. So we go up there every week during harvest season. The guys of our church go and they load up their trucks with fresh vegetables right out of the ground, fresh potatoes, corn, zucchini, whatever Rick has, no charge. The only charge is you got to come and get it. And then we bring it back to our church parking lot and then we give it away free. And the other thing the Fresh Fruits Farm says, you cannot sell what we're giving you. We're giving it to you. You've got to give it away. And so we do that every single week. Now there's sometimes before the harvest comes, we may be a part of the planting team, right? So it's inner city, and now it's not all inner city, but it's economics, right? There's a supply and demand. And I don't know if you found this out, PK and Doc, I don't know if you all use Fresh Fruits Farm or I know transportation is a problem, but there are people in Sandtown, Winchester, there are churches in Sandtown, Winchester that, you don't have to be a certain size church. It's just your willingness to go, be consistent. They're giving it away, and guess what? They're throwing some of it away too. And so something's wrong with that picture. Something is wrong with that. Reverend Boulware, you look like you will get ready to jump in and get on the box again. Doc Cheatham, I'll come back to you in a few minutes, see if we got our sound issues worked out. So be prepared.
Aside from just the basic thing of not having food to eat, and I raised 4 children in the inner city of Baltimore, 4 stair steps, and food was always a difficulty, but it sort of makes me angry now in this country that food should be a problem, that our children shouldn't get the things that they need to eat. But the other thing is their education around food. PK mentioned teaching the kids how to cook healthily. Some of our teachers found that children did not make the connection between a potato, when they were shown a potato, and the French fries they get from McDonald's. They didn't understand that ketchup was made from tomatoes and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of basic information that they miss by not seeing the preparation of fresh food in their homes on a regular basis. So we've just got to do something about it. That's my chicken box. We've got to do something about it and make a real difference in the lives of our children, because they'll take the same habits and pass them on to their children if we don't.
Okay, all right. Doc, we're gonna try you again. Let's see what your sound is like. Now this time you got to unmute. Your sound may be good, but you have to unmute.
I'm not that good. The one thing that has been mentioned, turkey, hamburgers, shrimp, crab meat.
Nope.
Those you still can't hear me?
No, Doc, we promise we're going to bring you back. We're going to help. We're going to work with you, get the technology together, and we're going to bring you back. Things
are in
Go ahead.
Our solutions are in writing. I want to give you 4 names. Gilmore Homes.
Okay, Gilmore Homes.
Harvey Johnson Towers.
Harvey Johnson Towers, got you.
Harlem Gardens.
Harlem Gardens, okay.
Rosemont Gardens.
Okay, Rosemont Gardens. I know where all of those places are, okay?
They're in my area.
Okay.
They don't have automobiles. These are federally subsidized housings. These solutions that people are talking about don't include people who are in federally subsidized housing and have no transportation.
Well, here's the solution we were talking about, though. We understand that is a problem. When we talked about Fresh Fruits Farms, we're talking about the churches and community organizations, people who are around those 4 areas who do have transportation and would be willing to go pick up this free food and bring it back to the community. That's what's happening in some communities in Baltimore already. So
there is a minority in the West Baltimore.
No, but I'm suggesting that they can work in West Baltimore. It works where we are in South Baltimore. So
but you're going back again to being vegetarians. Black folks in West Baltimore, for the most part, are not vegetarians.
Absolutely. They're not vegetarians in South Baltimore either. And there are people that also listen, you need a high quality food market within the quarter mile. No doubt about it. But while that's being built and debated or whatever people are doing, there may be some other options, and meat is involved. Meat is involved as well. It's not just vegetables. Okay. But because you are, as Heidi says, you're telling the truth. People don't have transportation, and we absolutely are not vegetarians. That's why we did this whole edition, all 28 pages on all the food that we like to eat. You know, all the food that we like to eat, and our vegetables are usually not at the top of the list, even though we ought to eat better.
Pounds the problem. We have 8 liquor stores.
Okay.
There's no problem in businesses selling us liquor, but there's a problem in selling us food.
Now that's the truth. That's the truth. And so the same way we can get those liquor stores in our communities, we ought to be able to get a food store in our communities. And so thank you for bringing up those 4 areas, and thank you for being on the front lines of this. When they see Doc Cheatham coming, he used to be the president of our local NAACP and always advocating for. PK or Reverend Boulware, any other solutions that you want to lift up?
I know that I think of the appropriate name for it, but I know that there is a Black church food network that was begun in Baltimore, and it has grown. It has helped people learn how to plant their own food, so they'll have their own fresh vegetables, but also made available food that has been brought in from area farms. So it's been a good thing for both entities. The farmers have been able to share their food, and the neighbors have been able to get food. And again, it's connected to a church. I know the Reverend Heber Brown was one of the starters of it. PK is going to interview him too. And I know at one point they were having midweek services before the pandemic on Wednesdays, and people would know to go, and they could get all the fresh food and vegetables that they wanted.
Mm-hmm. That's good. But like Doc said, people eating more than just vegetables. And then what about the staples that you're used to buying from the supermarket? Just a whole lot. PK, you want to jump in?
Yeah, one of the things in my article is, as I said, everything old school is new school. One of the things the Black farmers from Tuskegee and the Reconstruction area was community-supported agriculture, regenerative fields, community-supported, where you would pay, and Clagett, which I'm mentioning in another article that's coming out, is this farm, 280 acres or so in Upper Marlboro, where you can pay $300 if you're on food stamps or government assistance, $650, and your family gets that year's harvest, including, for Mr. Doc, the best fresh beef and lamb. So it's not only it's not vegetarian, and it's highly successful and it's profitable. And you know, I think the real solution we look at is from food to table, from farm to table, no middleman. Everybody in America is getting hurt by industrial farming, over-processed foods. You know, even Whole Foods is not as good as it sounds, because even an organic tomato from California shipped over to the Northeast is not that healthy, because you know you're bringing all the stuff that happened for the last 2,000 miles. So I think farm to table, closer relationship between what is come out of the ground and harvested to what you eat. You know, kale, for example, is you know, something that was in the Black community for a long time, and it became the most trendy food stuff in America. I mean, I was surprised, like, hey, have you had kale yet? This is years ago for my, you know. And also fairness in how our tax dollars are used to subsidize farmers. You know, most of the farmers I know, small farmers, are wealthy white people who are using it tax breaks, or major hedge funds who are buying like 5,000, 10,000 acres. So I think, you know, we have to look at the whole issue, the solution as a whole, you know, keeping our small farmers, especially Black farmers, in business, giving better healthy outcomes, and putting that as a cost benefit. When a family eats better, they're going to save society as a whole hundreds of thousands of dollars and make a better quality of life. This is an American issue, and this is a good business issue. So, you know, it's just getting the communication and the word across. But I think what the churches are doing, what, you know, small business, Arcadia, this little small organic farm in Northern Virginia, is providing, going to like the Northeast Ward 5 and providing a farmers, like a mobile farmers market. Those who are on food stamps get half the price off, but also provides the best fresh vegetables at the home. And this is what you do in Italy. You do this in almost all the world. You have the best fresh food. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. You still have the same access to the good food, because food is not the most expensive part of somebody's income, especially in the developed world. In the developing world, yes, but in our world, where we're the wealthiest country in the world. So, you know, we have 20 million millionaires. That's shocking, but we have 20 million millionaires in America.
Well, and we may have them, and it's a shame. We have 20 million millionaires, and we can't get the food to the people that need it rather. And so, if you're just joining us as we're getting ready to wrap up, we're talking about Black people versus food deserts. And yes, PK, yes, Dorothy, yes, Toni Draper. There are solutions. Some of them are long term. But what about the person that needs food right now? They can't wait for somebody to plant it. They can't wait for a supermarket to be built. They don't have access. Today is Thursday, May the whatever it is, 20th, and people need food. They need breakfast food. They need lunch food. They need things that we take advantage of. And so that's right, Damon Cooper. If we have access without good recipes, folk will go back to what they know or what they don't know. And so if Misha Green was here, she would do this Afro fact that would say that back in 1932, the Afro started what was known as the Afro Cooking School. And so you can find coverage of that in this week's edition as well. We'll have it up online. And so the Afro Cooking School was designed to, yes, teach people how to cook. And now, Doc, young people are taking adulting classes. But anyway, to teach people how to cook, to teach them about, recipes and what works with how to stretch. I don't know about y'all's mom, but my mom could stretch that food, right? Stretch that food. And there were also cook-offs and bake-offs, and people could win a brand new stove or a brand new refrigerator. Somebody said we ought to bring back the Afro Cooking School. It was at the 5th Regiment Armory. And so we should do that, right? Bring that back, get these manufacturers to donate that. Doc, I'm trying to pull up your website now and talk at the same time, because I do think you've got these magnificent 7 solutions, and I know you want to tell us what they are. And so Dana, who is helping us today in the back office, Dana, I don't know if you can pull them up for us and let's show them. But in the meantime, I want to thank Rachel, who's watching from Atlanta. I already said Greg talked about the thrifty carryout in DC. Hey, Jewel, good to see you. Jewel is a regular faithful listener. Chippy and Bonnie and Rico, peace and blessings to you as well. Frank, yes, West Baltimore. Everybody's saying, Doc, folk are weighing in on West Baltimore. Priscilla, we lifted you up earlier. You're out in LA. Hilton to East Baltimore. Rico says if you go Hilton to Milton, so if you're not from Baltimore, that's going the width of the city, Hilton west to east. And it's the whole strip is a food desert. That's the main street. All right. Yep, we talked about the education. I just want to give a shout out. Heidi, we gave you a shout out. Glad that you're here again. And Damon Cooper, and Laura Phillipsburg, thanks for hanging out with us on today. Ann Lanzi, you want us to bring back? Yeah, the cooking school did that. Ann Lanzi talked about those one-pot meals that we all know. But you can't make a one-pot meal if you don't have anything to put in the pot. You got to have something to put in the pot. Reverend Boulware, you look like you're ready to jump in. Let me tell you what we're going to do. This is our lightning round. We call it hot grease. So this is our hot grease part of the chicken box. Doc, I really hope that you can get your hot grease segment in. It's 30 seconds. So it's 30 seconds to say whatever's on your mind. I'm going to start with Reverend Boulware. PK, I'm gonna go to you. Doc, I'm gonna go to you next, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, 30 seconds, Reverend Boulware, you are on the box.
So don't put down the mothers who feed their kids from McDonald's when there's a sale and you can get 2 sandwiches for 1, because sending kids to bed full is better than sending kids to bed hungry. And if you haven't had the experience, go to one of those corner stores in Doc's neighborhood and see what it costs to buy some chicken and some potatoes and onions and a can of greens, because there are no fresh greens. And you'll understand the challenge of feeding children, even when you have food stamps. And it takes too much energy because it's something we're all entitled to. So just find out what it would cost to do that if you don't know.
All right, you're off the box?
I'm off the box.
All right, that was a great 30 seconds. Okay, PK, you're on the box.
I think I think what we need to do is, bring everybody to the table. the COVID crisis and pandemic has brought a lot of positive aspects of people who came back and were eating together with their families, and let's build on that. Being rich, eating well is a sign of mobility, and you can go from food stamps to being a billionaire, but eating well is always the same for everyone. And it takes nothing to bring that education and bring that together. And that's what we can do today, this minute, even tonight at dinner, we can do that, you know. Afro Kitchen with a woman who's teaching Italian cuisine, and she was doing the budget. Her thing was how to cook for 5 people with $25, which is the federal food stamp, you know, thing. And you can eat very, very well for $25, better than you can eat in the best restaurant. So I think, you know, I think it's just bringing us all around the same table. Thanks.
Yep, you can. You can eat for that $25 as long as you find some place to go to spend it. All right, Doc Cheatham, we're gonna try. Let's see if we can get you on the box.
Okay. We have 7 what we call magnificent 7 nutrition program recommendations. They're in print, they're in writing. We have figured out it has to be a collective program, 7 recommendations. Some of those are already in place. It's connecting them to the magnificent nutrition program that we have devised.
Okay, Doc, I want to read them for you. Your sound is still going on. Let's go back up a little bit. So I'm gonna be Doc on the box, and I'll use my box time and his at the same time. So go up a little bit, Dana, for us, a little bit on that, just a little bit more. Okay, all right. So here's Doc's statement, and Doc, can I read your statement? We're gonna close out on your statement,
Sure.
okay? All right. So here's what Doc wrote on his website. He says, "Thank you, Afro, for the splendid opportunity to share with your listeners one factually based reason African Americans in certain areas, such as Sandtown and Baltimore City, life expectancy is 20 years less. Did you hear me? 20 years left in life expectancy between the rich and the poor." We can stop right there, Doc. That's term food desert. Come on, educate us. Does not cut it, and be sure there is nothing healthy about food inequality that our city elected and appointed officials are lying to us about. I'm just reading, y'all. A food desert is defined by the USDA as a low-income census tract where either a substantial number or share of residents, Doc, read out your phone for me, please, has low access to a supermarket or large grocery store. This term is inadequate. We're learning something. The term implies that a lack of affordable and fresh food is just a geographic problem. It's more than that. The word desert makes it seem like these communities are lacking when they're filled with life and resilience, because Black and brown people are not broken. I agree with you there. The term makes the problem of food access and insecurity seem like a natural phenomenon and absolves responsibility. All right, let's go on down a little bit. And Doc says we ought to make a distinction between food desert and food apartheid, because language is political. Somebody say amen. And language has power. So it's critical to be intentional with our words and phrases, right? Real impact. And so he goes on to make that definition. And so here are his 7 solutions. These are the magnificent 7. Right, Doc? Give me a thumbs up. So I know that I'm reading the right thing. TIFs. We use TIFs for everything in our city. So tax increment financing, opportunity zone, welfare. He talks about the American Rescue Plan of 2021, Lifeline Assistance Program. I'm not reading everything under there, but I haven't gotten to the Magnificent 7. And so public housing. So Magnificent 7, Doc says, wrap all of these federal, state, and city initiatives into one nationwide nutrition program. PK, similar to what you're talking about. And so here are the 7. Those weren't the 7. Those are some other things we have in place. The 7, number 1, coordinate the NNP. What's the NNP, Doc? Okay, I heard you say something program.
Nationwide Assistance Program.
Okay, nationwide assistance program. Identify where food apartheids exist. Record the communities and streets that comprise this area. Design a map to reflect this designation. We would do that for anything else, and we have a map in our in the print edition. Well, it'll be online too, We have a map in this week's edition. Record the community. Okay, design a map. We said that. Communicate regularly with the 6 entities above, the TIFs and the other ones that he listed. Have the city. This is the Magnificent 7 solution Marvin Doc Cheatham has on his website for the Matthew Henson community area. Have the city waive gas, electric, water service, and taxes for your nonprofit building. Is that what you're saying?
No, whoever opens up the food market.
Whoever opens up the supermarket.
Give them that tax break.
Right. So giving them an incentive to open it, right? And then quarterly report the results. And so Doc is saying that let's have the political will to put food, as Reverend Boulware said, as PK said, people need food and they need it now. That's so Doc, I was on the box for both of us. You did all the heavy lifting, and I just concluded with we need food now. And so I want to thank you, Marvin Doc Cheatham Sr., for joining us today. We will absolutely have to have you back. If you could mute out your phone for us, Doc, I'd appreciate it. We'd love to have you back. PK, I know we're going to have you back because we are doing this series. We're glad to have you on board at the Afro. And we're going to write about this, Doc. Here's our commitment to community and to everybody who's listening and watching. We're going to write about this issue every week, more than once a week, probably, because PK has at least, 2 stories in this week's edition for the next 6 months. For the next 6 months, look for our feature under PK's byline called Securing the Bag. So we're going to partner with Doc and others and you who are passionate about this. We're going to keep the pressure on from the Afro to say, we want food and we want it now. And we want it for West Baltimore. We want it for the rest of Maryland. We want it for DC, where we have a footprint. And we want to help other communities around the country to demand. We're in a group called Word in Black with 9 other leading Black newspapers. And we're going to see if we can get some of us to pick this up. And the Washington Informer, a shout out to them. They also have a journalist on their staff for the next 6 months. And guess what they're writing about? Food deserts, food apartheid. We need food and we need it now. And so thank you, PK Semler. Thank you, Dorothy Boulware, for writing the grant that got us the funding so PK can write and write and write. And thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us today. You've joined us on the Chicken Box. We started a couple minutes late, and so nice thing about being live, it's not like network TV where we have to break for a commercial, but here's the commercial. Please support the Afro-American. Go to afro.com. We need your support. The Bible says we have not because we ask not, and we're asking. For less than the cost of 2 Uber Eats, you can get the digital subscription delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for our newsletter for free, but we also hope that you will elect. The only way you're going to get all of this coverage, including what Peter did, PK did, is to be a member of the Afro. Take care, everybody. So until next time, don't be a chicken. Get on the box. Hope that you're more informed about food deserts, that when somebody raises that term, you can say, hold it. There's a difference between a food desert and food apartheid, and we need food and we need it now. Take care, everybody. Thank you for being with us this afternoon.